Welcome to Warhammer War Scroll Review. In this video, we won't be focusing on a single war scroll, but instead we'll be taking a look at the highly anticipated General's Handbook 2017.
War Scroll Review.
You all have maybe noticed my brief hiatus from posting videos for Age of Sigmar. I apologize for that. I was totally not consumed playing 8th edition 40k. The General's Handbook 2017 is finally here, and AOS players have gotten some much needed balance. The handbook includes points adjustments, an ally system, and new allegiance abilities for not only the Grand Alliances, but over 10 other factions. In general, I'm pretty much in agreement with the points adjustments. Tzeentch Skyfires, who have been dominating the tournament scene of late, have gone from 160 to 200 points, which won't invalidate them, but will let us see less of them winning tournaments. Kurnoth Hunters went up 40 points, and I hope that's enough because Sylvaneth got a bit better because of the inclusion of allies and the decrease in most other units' costs. Thunder Tusks all increased 40 points to match their Stonehorn equivalents, which makes perfect sense. Savage Orruk Arrow Boys increased in points by 20, giving them a light tap of the Nerf bat, which is likely just enough. But more importantly, the Cunnin Ruck went up 100 points, which is honestly still pretty reasonable. Graphanix got a very small increase in points, but their maximum size is now 3, which makes them a bit more balanced since it requires at least a 100-point investment. Caradron Overlord's Aether Chemists got nerfed in 2 significant ways. Not only are they 40 points more, but according to the recent FAQ, their buff is limited to once per unit. The Celestial Hurricanum went up 40 points, which is definitely good, but it's still one of the units I feel could be raised even more. It's clear GW wanted it to be used as an ally, and I would imagine that's going to make it more common. Even if it were 400 points, I think most ranged order armies would include it, since armies like Stormcast and now Free Peoples can benefit from their Legion abilities and the Hurricanum. While the compendium models were kept out of the book, a PDF was released on Games Workshop's website for their adjusted points. The one we've all been waiting for is Tomb Kings, and more specifically, Necropolis Knights. And as much as I hate to say it since I've been using them since day 1 of Age of Sigmar, they are probably reasonably costed now, taking an 80-point hit. But the handbook was not just about making things more expensive. Plenty of overcosted units saw a change too. Gorgruntas really deserved a points decrease, and they got it. Now they're 140 points. Demigryphs went down 40 points. Hopefully that, in conjunction with Free People's abilities, will let us see more Demigryphs on the table, since they are such awesome models. A lot of the bigger models, like Nagash, Alariel, Glotkin, and Gordrak, got some significant points decreases. In terms of factions, there were some sweeping changes. One of the factions affected most by the points adjustments are Disciples of Tzeentch. The Skyfire change alone will alter how people are making their armies. Almost all the Monsters of Chaos went down 20 points. Slaves to Darkness saw some much needed decrease in points, and all Deathlord models decreased in points. A lot of the Elf, Human, and Duardin factions have also seen some decreases as well. One we all knew was coming was Fire Slayers, and they do not disappoint. Almost every unit was decreased in points. I think you'll be seeing a lot of hordes of short, ripped, half-naked bearded men on the table, and who doesn't like that? Seraphon has seen a lot of points decrease, including Skink Star Priests and Priests, which is kind of a big deal. Oddly enough, the Flesh Eater Courts actually saw quite a few points increases, and so did Bone Splitters. Beastclaw Raiders units generally decreased in points, other than the Thunder Tusk and Battalions. In fact, there's a general sense of battalions raising in points. After seeing 40k completely ditch formations, which was their version of battalions, I get the sense that GW is trying to phase them out a bit, or at least keep people from using multiple per army. Many of the battalions went up by roughly 100 points, and in some cases seemed like overkill. But to be fair, a lot of the battalions that increased saw the units required for them decrease in points, so maybe that was taken into consideration. The Massive Regiments rule is a welcome addition and increases the presence of horde armies. It creates sort of a bundle price for units at maximum size. Also note that even some unit sizes changed. Chaos Warriors now come in sets of 5 instead of 10. More battle line options were added to some factions, like Vargeist for Soulblight, Iron Guts for Gutbusters, and Chaos Chariots for Slaves to Darkness. And units like Beastclaw Raiders, Beast Riders monsters are rightfully always behemoths. As a couple of side notes, it's also cool to see the Silver Tower heroes placed amongst their respective factions. And also, if you need a visual representation of GW's enormous focus on Stormcast, this is the Golden Boys section. Please Games Workshop, give us a break! Allies are another big change in the General's Handbook 2017. In a 2,000 point game, a player can bring 400 points of units taken from a list accompanying each faction. These allies cannot be the army general, and unfortunately do not count toward battle line requirements. The Order faction may have the most crossovers, and Stormcast are allowed to ally with any other faction. Generally, the rule is, if the factions are the same race, they ally with each other, but there are exceptions to this. Expect to see Frostspire Phoenixes, Celestial Hurricanums, Lore Masters, Storm Fiends, Necromancers, and Grots as some common allies. It's probably worth mentioning Disciples of Tzeentch aren't allies to anyone but Everchosen, so you don't have to worry about every Chaos player using Skyfires. Allegiance abilities are likely what everybody has been waiting for. Instead of following for the pace of GW's Battle Tome schedule, which will likely be severely slowed due to the release of 40k or 8th edition, we just received 15 new factions at one time. There's no doubt that this will severely alter the meta for Age of Sigmar. We all like variety, so this can only do good things. Even if your faction wasn't boosted by allegiance abilities, the opponents you face will likely be more diverse. Plus you probably got a reduction in points and allies, so I would try not to feel too slighted. Even the Grand Alliances received new abilities, so really, almost every army has some shiny new toy to play with. One of the positives getting revamped Grand Alliance abilities is that they are more balanced. No longer is one command trait or artifact exponentially more powerful than the rest. On the downside, this was often achieved by lowering the effectiveness of the unbalanced item, instead of bringing the others up to their level. So in the case of Ruler of the Night, I think a lot of Death players, including myself, will be whining a bit at first. For the most part, I think they have made each Allegiance ability feel characterful and different from one another. Darkling Coven seems really fluffy and fun to use. Wanderers seem pretty decent, and they got some good cost decreases. Their Allegiance abilities make them extremely fast, and I think a cunning player is going to have a lot of success with them. Coincidentally, this concept is apparent in Brayherds too. Free Peoples have seen a return to their parent-child unit relationship, and the more specific Death factions retain the Deathless Minions rule, and Ironjawz retain Rampaging Destroyers. I'd like to focus on two of the most enhanced factions though. Seraphon got a big boost between points adjustments and allegiance abilities. They can only take Stormcast allies, which is a bit disappointing, but I'm not sure who they would really work with fluff-wise. Slan Wizards just got better, and don't forget the best Slan Wizard, Lord Croak, just got a significant decrease in cost. So maybe he will be more viable now that he can unbind 4 times from anywhere on the battlefield, and now that Celestial Deliverance can hit every unit within up to a whopping 24 inches. The generic Slan can also take command traits specifically geared for them. I find the most powerful one would be Vast Intellect, basically teaching the Slan both the Skink Star Seer and Star Priest spells. But then again, Great Rememberer allows them to teleport 2 units a turn, so I'm torn. Speaking of utterly crazy command traits, Skink Priests can take one that lets them use trapping abilities twice, or allows any other Skink hero to use the priestly trappings once, making Star Seers and Star Priests even more valuable. Their main battle trait is Lords of Space and Time. It allows the Seraphon player to choose a Seraphon unit anywhere on the battlefield and roll on a chart. A 1 means they cannot move or charge, 2 to 5 means they can teleport up to 9 inches away from an enemy, and on a 6, the unit will be able to teleport as previously described and then move, giving any Seraphon combat unit the ability to charge first turn. Pretty brutal. In all, I think the faction that was benefited the most was Fire Slayers, and rightfully so. They were one of the earliest AOS factions, and have been almost unusable the whole time. Their battle trait allows them to choose an army-wide ability each turn, with the chance of it being a pumped-up version. Some of the pumped-up versions include an extra attack and reroll ones to hit, increase run by 2, or increase movement and charges by 4 inches. Keep in mind, this affects every Fireslayer model in the army, so giant hordes of berserkers and heroes on magma droths just got much scarier. Their ability to take hordes is even more desirable when you put the command trait on your general that makes nearby units immune to battle shock. You can probably tell my feelings on the General's Handbook 2017 are overwhelmingly positive. I think this is going to add much needed diversity and gives us a boon of new rules to uncover even more combos and synergies. But I have to bring up what I feel is the biggest disappointment in this book: Kharadron Overlords. The Overlords are such a unique and robust faction, yet no one uses them. Why? Well, because their main units, the airships, are all too expensive. Not only did the General's Handbook increase the Aether Chemist's cost, the accompanying FAQ limited its abilities. The Aether Chemist was more or less the only thing the Kharadron Overlords had that really shined. Now, don't get me wrong, I totally agree the Aether Chemist needed some decrease in power, but not without a decrease in cost to most of the faction as a whole. Unfortunately, I feel that Games Workshop really dropped the Aether balls for Kharadron Overlords fans. They could be completely saved by just bringing down the cost of each airship by like 40 points, that's it. Another small, missed opportunity, I feel, is not adding a rule of 1 that disallows stacking of buffs. But to be fair, the newly released FAQs do limit some of the ones I felt were most problematic, like Aether Chemists and Rune Lords. So I suppose the Stormcast stacking lanterns on heroes until they're invincible was Games Workshop's intention. As a final thought, I have to reiterate the point that I think this book is awesome and gives a lot of AOS fans or newcomers a plethora of new rules to use, and in general, the positives outweigh the negatives. What do you all think of the General's Handbook 2017? Does it inspire you to start any new armies or pick up old ones? And also, do you all think the inclusion of these factions spells out what we can expect as far as battle tomes in the near future? Like, should we expect tomes for Darkling Covens or Free Peoples soon? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thanks for watching.